Now then, people, welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show. Please smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in, and of course, hit that notification bell. As you can see, we're pretty thin on the ground today. I know it's the international break,
but everyone's
only
the hair department.
Hey, that was quite good for you, Max. I can't lie. That was good. That was good. Yeah, so international break, everyone thinks they can take time off. It's a joke, but where are you? Where are you? Still fit, fighting strong. We've of course got Jura and Max. Kate will be joining us as well. She's coming a little bit later on, but should be here shortly. But we're here for the final word on Leeds United versus Sheffield Wednesday, a 0-0 board draw, but a clean sheet nonetheless. And for me, as poor as the result might have been after watching it, I don't think it was a great game to watch. I'm positive that we got a clean sheet. And apparently that's not good enough because, we should be getting a clean sheet. And I have to remind people, hang on a minute, you do realise that this is the first one since February. Clean sheets are not easy to come by for Leeds United. Don't make out that we get them every week. It's literally been, 5 months or more? And people are seeing it, you're being too positive. Come on, man, relax. Anyway, let's welcome in the guests. Max, you're smiling away there. How are you, mate? All good? I feel like I haven't spoke to you for ages, mate.
Yeah, I think I was on here a few weeks ago, but it's been a while. But I'm not particularly angry or particularly happy, to be honest. I think the transfer window, all in all, went well, which we will get into, I'm sure, at some point. But we've drawn the game, but we've only played a few, haven't we? It's a 46-game season. Let's see what comes after the international break.
Exactly. Do you know what, actually? Well, he's just mentioned that 46-game season. Straight after the game, I go on social media and people, before this weekend's game, by the way, when City left, apparently top two was out of reach. At that point, we still had 42 games left to play. We now have 41. And after a 0-0 draw and a clean sheet, the first time since February, as I've said, apparently we're not going to get top two and there's still 41 games to play. And furthermore, the early pace setters, which were Leicester, Southampton and Norwich, all lost. And people are trying to say and bang this narrative that Leeds United can't get the top two and we're so far away from Leicester, from Southampton. Half of these people haven't watched them play. I've had the luxury of watching them and even dipping into their content creation. And it ain't great at either club. So, listen, anyway. But yeah, is the top two done? Shall we just shut up shop and end the season now, mate, with 41 left to go?
No, as far as I remember, the two teams that got promoted last season weren't in the top half of the table by this stage last season. So we're probably bang on course to finish in the top two if you take it from that one. West Bromwich Albion were in the bottom four for a third of the season. Just missed out on playoffs. Middlesbrough did the exact same thing as well. You can lose 10, 11 games in this division and still get promoted. We haven't. We've only lost one. So, it's not a bad start to a season from that perspective. If you take the international break into consideration and look at where we possibly could be after that with a couple of more weeks working with the newer players, you get a win against QPR and you've got 7 points from 9. That's a decent haul, So, and it should get better. The first third of this season are just figuring out where everybody is. This is not a rush for the top two right now. If we're not here, and I think if I'm right in assuming there's been seasons where Leeds have been miles down. I mean, how many seasons were we in the bottom half of the table and then the second half made a run at the playoffs, or we're in the playoffs for the first half of the season, then collapsed and fell out of them? A lot can happen. A huge amount.
I think people have got used to the Premier League, to be honest, because a lot of the time in the Premier League, two teams do just run away with it usually and battle it out between themselves, and the rest of the league has to fight for the scraps that are left. But the Championship's not like that. Like you say, Joe, you get to halfway through the season, someone could be right down there, and they make the playoffs. Isn't that what happened with Middlesbrough and Carrick? Weren't they right down there?
Middlesbrough were in the relegation zone for 3 months, mate.
Exactly.
3 months. Exactly. 3 months.
And that's how this division works. It's different to the Premier League. So
the Premier League is a sprint. And has always been a sprint. You have to get off the mark rapidly, get your 40 points as quick as you possibly can. The Championship is not a sprint, it's a jog.
No.
But the second half of the season, it's only starting to pick up the pace and you're starting to see which teams are. We were lucky the last time we had Bielsa. It was slightly different. We started the season on fire.
Yeah.
It's different. But that doesn't mean just because it's different, that we're not going to end up with the same outcome from it. So I would, a bit of caution and a bit of just temper it a little bit, I'd say.
Here, look, Coventry will bottom after 5 games. So we're already on course, aren't we? We're already on course.
We've talked about this a lot. We operate in extremes. We're either HMS piss the league or we're relegation fodder. It's
HMS Titanic.
I love that. Right, let's dial it right back. So I've not had the opportunity to speak to the final word crew, the regulars, if you like. Make sure as well, folks, you go on and go in the description and subscribe to each one of these brilliant channels. But let's go back to Friday night. Just want to touch on it. Kate, I'll come to Kate. Are you ready? Are you all right to speak, or do you need to sort? Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to catch you off guard.
I'm not prepared today.
It's all right,
but I'm here.
You're here. That's the main thing.
You do preparation.
I have to keep up with you guys.
I've just noticed your varsity jacket in the background. Oh, look at that, Joe.
I know, my 49ers jacket.
I know, I'm jealous. I've literally just wrote that now as talking points.
Nice
That's my scribbles from during the game.
Okay, fair. Yes, I thought you'd done it before tonight. I know. I've got a fancy one there for uni that I never used. Kate, right, transfer window. How did Friday go for you? Obviously, losing Sinisterra, but acquiring Jadon Anthony. Disappointed to lose him? Kate, can I just jump in, by the way, actually, because there was a bit of confusion when you responded to me on Twitter. I agreed with you, actually, because I think everyone was calling Cini a rat, but it was, for me, you shouldn't, but you can't blame him, and also he was given that opportunity to take us to court because of the stupid idiots that put the contract in place.
Yeah, absolutely. I was, got lost in translation and all the emotion and the sort of heat of the moment. But absolutely, yeah. I mean, I just sent a tweet, a message to Jer actually, because we were on sort of the last hour, and I said, I kind of went into that sort of final hour all guns blazing, and by the time we sort of talked it out, I felt a little sort of calmer. I kind of always expected him to go, but it actually happening was a bit of a punch in the gut, really. But it wasn't his fault. I can't blame him for wanting to go. I think there's a lot of people down on him because they've seen that picture of him driving into Thorpe Arch apparently and saying that he was staying to people. I think it maybe was the way it was done in the optics, the way it was perceived. Nobody really, really, really knows what went on the ground. And, just good luck to him. Mm-hmm. And we need to move on now. Jadon Anthony, I haven't had time to watch Max's amazing video, but I will do. I can't comment. But moving forward, I am positive, more positive than I was at the end of yesterday's game. I think that was a blip, I'm hoping. But yeah, for me, expected it, punching the gut when it happened. But look, time to move on.
Definitely. Can I just say as well, I just want to, as someone actually messaged me about something someone had said about Jadon Anthony barely being used at Bournemouth and, just making throwaway comments. He played in every single Premier League game of them this season. And a reporter from the Bournemouth side had actually come out and said he'd been their best player. I was lucky enough to have Sam on from the Back of the Net podcast on a video, and he gave me a little read on Jadon Anthony and said they were all shocked. They were all surprised. He ripped it up last time he were in the Championship, and they expect him to do it again. So don't always take what you hear as gospel. Maybe have a look into it first, because like I say, he played in every single Premier League game up until when he left. So I just want to give props to Jadon Anthony. We're not getting a bad player, people. Yes, he's not Cini, but we are not getting a bad player. So watch this space.
Matt, sorry, Joe, can I just add to that? That's kind of, again, more astute business.
Yes, it is.
Kind of indicates to me that they have been prepared, that this may be sort of on the table, and maybe, they're not just going to, Daniel Farke won't just, stick a needle in a, whatever it is, on the tail on the donkey and go, we'll have it. They knew who they were getting sort of as part of the deal. So again, maybe more astute business.
No, I agree. But according to Phil Hayes' article, Leeds United had been approached by a few clubs and they said, no, we don't want anyone in your setup, so we're not going to sell him. Which again, we could have, they've made, what's really give me positive as well. It's a similar sort of profile. They haven't just gone, oh, just give us him, he'll do. They've actually gone, no, we need a left winger. Jaden Anthony plays on the left. He can also play on the right. So, yeah, listen, we haven't done bad out of it. And if there is a football god, Jaden Anthony plays 41 games and Sinistera has his obligatory injury again, and then we can all laugh. I mean, I don't want to wish injury on anyone, but that would be the sweetest things to happen. So we'll wait and see. But Max, do you think we did enough? Because seeing yesterday's game, I know Shaq played well, so I'm not going to mention the left back, but we were definitely missing a creative number 10 in there, I felt.
Yeah, but I do think we have most of the tools now. We're only missing a left back, which obviously is something that we're just, I don't think we're ever going to get a left back. But it does leave us with the opportunity.
They're like unicorn poo, mate. They're like unicorn poo.
It does leave us with the opportunity to go in January and say, look, we just need 2 positions in January. Yeah. We need a number 10 and we need a left back. And if we had to do that, then, I mean, we've only given ourselves 2 things to do, and that pushes us on for the rest of the season. But having said that, I do think we have enough to challenge, certainly. We had enough to probably get playoffs before the transfer window. But now I think we've definitely got enough to push for those top 2 spots. It's just making sure that the team are gelled together and are ready to play together. And like you've mentioned a couple of times, Joe, we've got the international break now to bed most of those players in.
Yeah.
You've got Ampadu.
What a player, by the way.
Yeah.
What a player.
A couple of players that will be going out for international duty, unfortunately, but it will allow most of the squad to bed in. And most importantly, players like Rutter and Pirro, they will both stay during the international break, and they're the ones that need to learn how to work together, because that was the biggest thing from this game. We will get into that, but
who goes, Max? Who goes on international duty off the top of your head? Do you know?
Jan James isn't fit, is he?
No, he's not going.
But it'd be
Monto.
Oh, Rodon and Ampadu. Yeah, sorry.
Archie Gray for the unders.
Yeah, the 21.
No, he's been pulled out of that. He's been withdrawn.
Okay.
Yeah, Leeds are monitoring his minutes and also a small knock that he picked up in the game.
Do you reckon that's BS just to keep him in house? Oh yeah, he's got a little knock. Yeah.
There'll be a few others as well.
Somerville maybe with the unders as well. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe
potentially.
He hasn't been called up yet. Klassen was called up for Norway, but he was the only one. Hjelde wasn't called up for Norway.
Kamara will be for Finland.
Yeah. Okay, so there is quite a few then.
Gruev for Bulgaria.
Well, Kamara isn't a guarantee because he hasn't kicked the ball this year.
Well, yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, he's not had a lot of football.
But it depends on what Finland has.
Mate, Gareth Southgate's picked Maguire and Phillips. Do you know what I mean? So we can't really, if they're good enough, they get picked anyway, right? So, yeah. Okay, so you're all right with what we've done. I tend to agree with you, Max. I think it's okay. In an ideal world, we could have took it from a 7 up to a 10 with a left back and a 10, but I do
still think it's
high transfer.
I think it's an 8 because the fact that we did, like Kate mentioned, we did bring in Jaden Anthony. I think under the previous ownership, this actual very thing happened. This actual very thing happened with Dan James. They sent him to Fulham to get loaned out, and they didn't have a replacement lined up for him, but they still let him go. They didn't pull him back again. And maybe that's because of the history of what happened in previous times when he's been messed about when he came to Leeds and then had to go back to Swansea. And they felt like they couldn't do it to him again, maybe, but we didn't have anybody lined up and we still let him go. And we were light last season. So the fact that we're able to still get somebody in, and really Leeds must have driven quite a hard bargain to get Jaden Anthony, because like you say, Joe, he's been involved a lot for them. 8 goals and 6 assists in the Championship last season for them is decent for a winger. And like you said, he'd played every game so far this season. He played the first 3 or 4 games. So he was in the manager's plans, but they've obviously gambled on the fact that Sinistera is a slightly more technically gifted and better player. But for me, we've got... It's how you judge who's better, because for me, if you say, right, you can have Lewis Sinistera for 15 to 20 games, or you can have Jaden Anthony for 41 games, You probably take Jaden Anthony, don't you? Because you want somebody who can be fit for a full season. I mean, I've probably cursed it now, but I don't believe.
No,
in that
you're
sort
right.
of thing. So, but that's the logic behind it, isn't it? That yes, he maybe not be quite as technically gifted, but really, if he's going to stay fit, then it's better than having a player who's going to go down with an injury after every 90 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Jay, obviously, I know we talked Friday. We don't need to go over it again. But out of the signings that we did make, now the window's shut, who are you most excited by?
Well, Joe Pirro's the obvious one. If we figure out actually we should play him as a striker and let him do what he's supposed to be good at doing, and not playing him as a 10 and wasting him. Yeah, I think he's probably the most exciting one, and the one we needed to do the most going into the window was to make sure we got a number 9. We did, which is great news. I think Ethan Ampadu is. There's something I noticed in the game. I was going to keep this for the game, but I really want to talk about him a bit. I don't think we realize how important his last-ditch tackles are in our penalty area, because the amount of times he's the one, and if you go back, and me and Kate looked at a couple of videos a couple of weeks ago of Tyler Adams defending against Tottenham last year, and balls being pulled back to the edge of the box and tap-ins, and Adams was 10 yards away from the player who was American. Ampadu was always there to get in front of that ball and to nick it and to pass it out. It's not glamour stuff, but it's bloody effective defensive football. Like, he's always there to make the last tackle. He reads the game incredibly well. So for me, I think that's a massive upgrade in that position. So I think those two either end of the pitch are great. I'm looking for Jed Spence did some numbers in 6 minutes. That
cameo, man, wow!
It took too long.
If I can't go around you, I will physically go through you.
Yeah.
And I am all in for that. I thought it was great. I thought he looked. I felt Bill had a good game in that. To be fair,
he did. Yeah.
And then you see him get Spence coming in and going, that's the end of Bill now. That's him going off. And you could see him going off and going, I don't know how many games you're going to play, mate, if Jed Spence is fit, because that's an upgrade. That's a serious upgrade. Even if
he's got chemistry with Rodon as well.
100%.
He's played for. They both went on loan to the same team in France, didn't they? Was it Rennes?
Yeah, Rennes.
They both played together in the same team in France, and for Spurs, they've got that relationship already. So I think that's going to work really well together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think we did really well keeping players as well, Joe. And come here, this should be said. Probably the best signing we made for the transfer window was Daniel Farke.
Yeah.
Because despite some issues that I have with yesterday's performance, they're not tactical. I thought he's been a breath of fresh air coming into the club. I don't think we could have a better man being the face of the club as well. How he conducts himself in press conferences, how professional he is. The things he says are what Leeds fans believe. At least as an old-fashioned Leeds fan. He says all the things I want to hear as a Leeds fan. That badge means everything. No one's bigger than this club. You work hard or you leave. You know, all that stuff. I'm like, yes, this is it. So, yeah, I think the signs have all been really solid and really good. And we've kept some good players. Well, yes, we lost Cine, but his knees have made the biscuits. You know, so 13 games he started last season, an entire Premier League season. He started 13 games. You know, Jaden Anthony has more assists last season in the Premier League than Luis Sinisterra had last season in the Premier League. Now, I know he scored some goals, but he's not there to score goals. He's there to get assists. He's there to get across the ball in for a striker to score goals. Jaden Anthony did that last season as well. So, for me, I think we've maybe lost a player in Cine that nobody else has a player of that level in the league. So you lost a slight advantage, but I don't think we're disadvantaged by losing him, because I think what we have is still better than what's out there in that league.
Yeah,
but I agree. Number 10 was screaming out on Saturday.
Yeah, it was. It was what was missing, wasn't it? It was definitely what was missing for me. Let's talk about the game then. We'll start with the positives, seeing as the chatting about it. Let's talk about the clean sheet. Obviously, we haven't had one since February. It's a long time since we've had a clean sheet. The way that for me, some people are reacting to it as though it's not a good thing would make you believe that we had clean sheets every week. Would make you believe that we can defend. Would make you believe that the goalkeeper has conceded every shot that he's faced this season. But clearly, you know, that apparently that's not good enough now that we've kept a clean sheet against a poor side. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we always concede in every game. We conceded against Salford.
Yeah.
So am I right to be positive about a clean sheet against a poor Sheffield Wednesday side, or should I not be asked about it, because they nearly bloody scored?
The clean sheet is the basis of what you build everything on as in a football game.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was going to say. And again, look what Nick Hammond did when he was at Newcastle. No, you were on the nail on the head, Max. I wouldn't have expected anything less from you, to be honest. I knew you'd be there with that. It's
you'd expect less from me, though, wouldn't you, Jar? Because no, because I don't agree. No, I'm joking, but no, I know because you guys know what we talk. But from like a fan's point of view, you know what I mean. I'll give you a different perspective. Carry on.
No, go on. No, let me hear from you, Kate. I want to hear from you a bit.
No, I don't want to interrupt. Okay, just quickly. What I'm saying is, yes, we kept a clean sheet. Yeah, it was great, right? And that should not be underestimated. But it was against like the worst side in the league, and it shouldn't be celebrated as some kind of victory just because we kept a clean sheet. We dropped 3 points or 2 points. Do you know what I mean? And so, yes, it is a positive, but it can't be with the way the team was set up and all the rest of it. There was some serious errors, and if those errors hadn't have been there, we wouldn't possibly have done it. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's great, but for me, this is what we should be doing.
Let me respond. I hear you, right? But this is a team, right, that has conceded goals against Salford, against Shrewsbury, 3 against Ipswich, against Birmingham City, against West Brom, 2 against Cardiff on the opening day. Was beaten last season, 4 put past them by Bournemouth, you know? Leicester scored against us. Fulham got 2 against us. Liverpool got 6 against us.
We have an average that nobody else had. We concede, on average, 2 goals per game. That's a huge average to concede. If you look at what's been done here, I agree with Kate, which is saying, no, it's not a victory, and we shouldn't be celebrating it as a victory. However, it is a building block to fix something that we have not been able to do against lesser teams as well. And I think we've got it. And if you go, what I was going to say was, if you look at what Nick Hammond did in his first transfer window when he went to Newcastle, he started at the back and he built a back line that could defend and not concede goals. If you don't concede goals, you're guaranteed 1 point. Guaranteed.
But Jet, was it the fact that we didn't concede goals, or was it the fact that going forward they were so shit?
No, I'd say the opposite. I'd say the opposite. I'd say our issue yesterday wasn't our defense. Our issue yesterday, Saturday. Yeah, yesterday. Our issue on Saturday was we couldn't score or
they were shit. They were shit.
The combination, though. It's a combination.
So are Salford, and so are Shrewsbury, and so are loads of teams we played last season, but we still conceded to those teams. Yeah. And you've got to close the gaps up before you can build on going forward. You've got to stop conceding goals.
I don't think we did close the gap. This is what I'm trying to say. I don't think what we did yesterday was close the gaps. I think there was loads of. I mean, look at the amount of times that Ethan Ampadu had to like clear
the
ball.
Like but that's why they're there. Their job is to do that.
If they had been half decent, we would have conceded yesterday. It's only because they were so shit.
Like the worst team in the world. Okay. Every coach and every manager will tell you this. Can be the worst team in the world you're playing, they will still get a 10-15 minute spell in every game. Every single game, the bad teams will get chances, will still take them. Our issue has been every time that these teams have gotten a chance against us, they've scored. Where yesterday they got chances and they didn't score. And that's a big difference from where we were before. Ilan Meslier made one really good save, but far less saves to make than he normally has to make. Or he faced a lot less shots yesterday than he's had to face because the defenders were in those positions to stop those chances.
Is it because of the defenders, or is it because they're so poor? That's what I'm asking.
No, sorry, I just want to quickly add what I know you're saying they're poor, but we conceded to a League One side and a League Two side. So what does that say?
As poor as them.
They weren't okay. They're 2 divisions below.
They are okay. Shrewsbury are worse than what Sheffield Wednesday are.
Statistically, they're worse sides. They're 2 divisions below.
Yeah, but I'm talking about that. I'm talking about Salford. Salford played better than Wednesday did yesterday.
I disagree, but anyway, that's by the by. My point is though, Kate, right? No, hear me out though. What do you think this has done? And this is the positive that I take. This is a defense, right? That hasn't kept a clean sheet since February, right? Yeah. They now know, do you know what? We can keep a clean sheet.
We can keep a clean sheet against the worst team in the thing. The test will be against Millwall.
Wow. I can't believe how wild this. I'm really shocked at you, Kate. I am.
Can I just say something? If we're gonna be the team that teams think we are, sorry. If we're gonna be the team, if we're gonna be the team that fans think we should be, which is HMS Pistol League. If we're gonna be that team that's gonna walk about this league, then that makes every single other team in that division worse than us.
Yeah.
So if that's the bar that worse teams don't concede against us, then that means that we have to keep a clean sheet against every single team in the league before we can even judge that, which I don't think is the case. I think there's a lot of things wrong with yesterday's performance. I think the clean sheet is probably one of the good things because it hasn't happened in so long and it was desperately overdue for confidence for everything else.
It was a great thing, Jeff. I'm just saying, I don't know whether it was because we were great defending or whether they were so poor going forward. That's what
I know where you're coming from, Kate, but I think what happened was we defended well for 70 minutes of the game and they didn't have those sorts of chances.
Okay.
When they did get those chances, and you're right, because I was sat in the cheese wedge right in front of one of when they volleyed it into the ground and then over the bar, which was a really good chance for them. They had some really good chances in those phases right towards the end of the game, and they fluffed their lines. They probably should have had a goal. But what I think happened was that's when we were really trying to push for a winner. And I think that's when our defense then, because throughout the game, we were pretty balanced in defending well and still creating chances. Well, almost creating chances and then knackering it up in the final third. But when we really started to try and push for a winner in the last sort of 10, 20 minutes, I agree with you. We gave them chances and they probably could have put them in the back of the net if they had competent strikers. But I think that was just the situation of the game. You can't, if you're going to go and try and win a game, you kind of have to give away some chances just of the nature of them playing a very deep team and trying to hit us on the break. And they had one game plan: pass it to Barry Bannon and whack it down the line, where behind our fullbacks, and that's all they really had. But I know where you're coming from, Kate, because we did give them chances that a better team may have scored. But I think what you'll find that throughout the whole championship, because you've probably got PTSD from the last couple of years in the Premier League, because those chances dropped to Harry Kane, those chances dropped to Erling Haaland. It's a guaranteed goal. We've already seen it in multiple games this season. We let West Brom go full on through on goal, and he just kicked it over the bar, like full on skied it. And it's like, okay, that's the difference in the level, is that you can give away more chances and you can not concede from them.
Do you know Chef Wednesday? Do you know Chef Wednesday? I've just had a look at their results as well. They've only not scored in 2 games this season. They scored against Southampton, scored 2 against Hull City, scored in another game. The only 2 they haven't scored in was away at Preston, where they lost 1-0, and yesterday. So if they can score 2 again, score a goal against Southampton, 2 against Hull City, and they're both above us in the table, then we should say it. And I'm not. But my point is, right, I think there's been a massive overreaction to Leeds. I can see it in the chat. They're talking about, standards are on the floor, all this sort of stuff. Folks.
They're also saying it's right, by the way, Joe.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that as well. Don't worry.
No, I'm joking. Look.
They've clearly banged the red this morning. It's fine. It's fine. But my point is, we've played 5 games and everyone's going like, what's going on? It's like, we're 5 games in, chill. The positive you should be going into the international break is you had a clean sheet. We've got a clean sheet, right? We build from this now.
We've lost 1 game after losing 14 players. Yes. We've lost 1 game in the league. Yeah. 1. If we get 3 points against QPR after the international break, it's 7 points from 9. That is promotion form. Relax. Yeah. Relax. We've got loads. But I will say to Kate's point, not to discourage your point at all, Kate. If we're still having this conversation halfway through the season, then we're okay. If we're keeping clean sheets during halfway through the season, fine. But if we're not, it's a valid point. And I do understand where you're coming from. What you're saying.
No. And I get what you're saying, Jeff.
It's all valid points, because Sheffield Wednesday are crap. They were horrible to watch. They sat back and they tried to soak up all the pressure. And even when they did play in the counter-attack, they had one plan. I've said it before, Bannon, then down the wing. They were awful. And in attack, they were terrible. Yes, we should be beating them, but we haven't had that time to bed our new signings in. Obviously, we've seen that Farke is experimenting with some of the players in certain positions, players who started, players who are on the bench, etc. If this result had happened after Christmas, or even just later in this year, I would be going, we should be beating them anyway because they're bad, but we didn't lose, and that's the main thing. It's a point towards that tally that we need at the end of the season. They are bad, but if we're still not winning games like this a bit later on in the season, then it's panic time. Well, not panic time even then, but just it's like, we winning these.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you, mate. I'll just quickly get some super chats in. Theo, sorry, he's been a member for 6 months. Says holding on to Somerville was a big one for me. He's a talented player, and I sense a huge season for him. Get a huge fee for him when we are promoted. And he says when in capitals. It's when, not if, isn't it, my guy? I agree with you. Yeah. Chris says how likely a Prem club I can't see it, mate. He's signed a long-term contract, and the 49ers have already shown us they will not sell players if they don't need to.
No clauses in the new guys' contracts. Not
definitely. Carlos says ifs and buts. This league is unpredictable, as we all know. Daniel Farke has had his squad for 10 weeks or so. Review it at Christmas. Exactly. I think everyone's just getting a little bit vexed too early, too soon. Right. Okay.
History in the championship, Joe, as well. Like take Bielsa's era out of the equation. Most season we were hovering around playoffs going, if it's there at Christmas, then we can make a run. Then we can make a run after Christmas, and then usually be buckled. But we've been spoiled in this division the last time we were here, the last 2 times we were here. So I do understand some of it to a degree, but I think there is a level of just give it a chance, give the man a chance. Because for me, what's missing is sharpness, tempo, and rehearsed patterns of play. That connective tissue that they get between things. That's only going to come with time.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree. Right. Okay. Well, that was meant to be the positive section, but clearly that didn't work.
I forgot you said that at the start.
I know, right?
I've written down loads of negatives. But I've written down loads of positives as well.
Yeah.
Let's possession.
Go on, mate. Go.
Great.
Yeah.
Right, I'll rattle through it. Possession was great. I thought one thing that we did really well in the game that we haven't done well for a long time, our transitions from attack to defense, getting bodies back behind the ball was really, really good, which I don't think we've done well enough. I think that's possibly some of the reasons why we didn't concede the goals. We didn't get caught in counterattacks as much. Movement out wide when we did get the ball out was really, really good. The overlaps were good. The underlaps were really good. There was no end product, but that part of it was good. Jed Spence, as I already said, coming on, I thought he was excellent. And Ethan Ampadu's clearing, defending the back line is just outstanding. It's fantastic.
Well, thank God for Ethan Ampadu. That's what I'm saying. I mean, he single-handedly made us not concede.
I'm going to go full Roy Keane here. That's his job. He is the central defensive midfielder. His job is to protect the two centre backs.
What about
you're right.
Like moved, like turned over, and God, it was just like.
Do you know what? Depends on what you look at with Daniel Farke's system. Daniel Farke's system, the fullback's job is not to defend. The fullback's job is support attack. The 2-6's job is to drop out and cover the fullback hole and to defend those areas and to cover the passing lanes, which they do. And I think Archie maybe struggled a little bit with it in the first half of the game. Second half, I thought he got better, but the first half, I think he struggled a little bit with blocking off passing lanes. But Ampadu does that really well, where Tyler Adams didn't do it particularly well. Calvin did it really, really well. Like Calvin was always dropping between the centre backs to pick up things. You know, if you see a player in there doing lots of things, then great, then he's doing his job effectively. I don't remember Tyler Adams picking up, intercepting balls in our penalty area. I don't remember Tyler Adams blocking a shot from the edge of the box. I always remember him being the wrong side of the player looking at the ball. So that's a huge positive of a player that can do that. Roy Keane built a career on being the last midfielder to make those tackles the last second. It's an art form in itself, and it's a skill for a defensive midfielder to be able to do that effectively. And it's a huge plus to have a player in your team who is capable of doing that in those areas, because in those moments, it is very easy to panic. It is very easy to get sucked into the ball and do wild things. Ampadu has a level of just chill where he just brings it down, gets in front of somebody, nicks the ball, and passes the 5 yards. Even our passing out from the press, because Wednesday did try a high press on us at times in the first half, and the passing out was patient. It was structured. It was nice. They got out pretty easily. So I think he adds an awful lot there that we just didn't have before. And I think if he is defending lots and if he is winning lots of tackles, great. That's exactly what he should.
You know what I love about Ampadu? You know, when you see a team, and even top teams, you saw it even with the Arsenal Man United game earlier. I don't know if anybody saw that. When teams try and play out from the back, a lot of the time the holding midfielder is their out ball, and he provides an option to then try and get them back up the pitch. But a lot of the time, if you're playing against a team that is pressing you, the player has to just literally first time bounce it straight back to the centre back as well. I don't know if it's just because of the quality of the division or what, but Ampadu so often seems to just check his shoulder, and when he does, he notices which side the player's on, and he, instead of taking a touch or hitting it straight back, he just turns, he just rolls the player, and the player's got on the wrong side of him. He's got his back to the player basically, and he's just charging towards the halfway line, and you go, oh, we've bypassed their press immediately like that. And you don't see that from many centre-backs, even like Casemiro in that game earlier. He's just having to pop it straight back to the centre-backs because Arsenal are pressed high up. And like you say, at some points in the game, I was going to say Huddersfield then, Sheffield Wednesday were high up and were trying to sit on Ampadu because they knew he was the outball, and he just rolls them and goes towards the halfway line and gets us up the pitch. I love it. I absolutely love it.
So good. He is. He's so good, mate. He is. I can't.
And he's
lie.
playing beside a 17-year-old that he has to talk a lot to as well, and mind as well. So you put an experience like Kamara or Gruyev in there as well. All of a sudden, there's less pressure on him to look after the other player, focus on his own game a bit more. So there's more to come there, I think.
He's only like 23 himself.
Yeah. Rad says hear about Nonto straight up tunnel at full-time Strops. Didn't hear about it.
I'm all right with that though, because if that's a footballing Strop, then he's annoyed that we didn't win the game. I'm okay with that. He should be annoyed that we didn't win the game.
Yeah. Okay, let's move. Reggie P. Gamer, changing your name on YouTube. That's it. It's done. It's done. Let me just react to this. Joe crying like a biatch when someone doesn't agree with his opinion. That's not true. Not true at all.
We all have opinions, don't we? Do you know what I mean?
I know, right? I didn't cry like a biatch, but if you want me, what I can do for you is give you some more of that, like going away to change your YouTube name and coming back and putting silly stuff in the chat like a child who's being a little bitch now. Not me. Here's what it is. Anyway, we move. So the issues going forward, we had a few. I've seen a few people mention it in the chat. They watched it on the rewatch. Actually, Leeds United had a lot more chances than we probably give them credit for. I thought their keeper made a couple of good saves. But I just want to talk about the 9 and 10. And Rutter being the 9 and Pirro being the 10. And, you know, I don't think it's as easy as just saying put Pirro where you know, Rutter is and then everything's sorted. I don't know if it is as easy as that. But I think Pirro was non-existent, though, right? He
was existent, but he had trampoline for feet, and that was a big part of it. That he couldn't make the ball stick every time it came at him. It just bounced off his feet, and just honestly, his first touch in the game was awful, and it happened nearly every time he got the ball. It just bounced off him and went to a Sheffield Wednesday player, or sometimes he just. You know, when footballers have that sort of lack of concentration and just lazily kick it, there was multiple times where it was just like, he just sort of went and just sort of flicked a leg at it. And when you thought, that's not good enough, but also it's not his position.
Exactly.
It's not. The thing is, in the Ipswich game, when they played, we noticed actually, and I'm pretty sure we said it on here maybe, that Rutter and Pirro interchanged. And they interchange quite a lot. And a lot of the times, Pirro would maybe drop deep to win a header because he's better at heading than what Rutter is. And you saw Rutter running on behind. But they were a lot more fluid and they switched positions a lot more. And they basically were like one stay, one go. But some people have tried to tell me that they were doing it in this game. I don't really think they were. I think they were sat more rigidly in their positions as if he'd said, look, Pirro, you are number 10 today. Rutter, you are number 9. What I just don't understand is the fact that Farke himself has said multiple times, Rutter is not a striker. He's a wide forward. He's a wide attacking midfielder. Why then play him? Well, you just signed the best striker in the league. Like, it sounds simple, but just play him in his position. Play him up top. Whether he was trying something clever or whether he was just trying something out to see how it might work because we were playing against the team that were bottom at the time. I don't know, but for me, just put Pirro up front because that chance where Rutter goes through on goal and you know he basically just side foots it into the keeper's gloves and the keeper's like, "Oh, thank you." He's like, "Oh, nice, lovely."
That's it.
He's like he didn't want to hurt the keeper. If you have Pirot on that, best believe he's taking the goalkeeper's head off if he's not scoring. He'll put absolute laces through that. But yeah, it's just
there was no comparison. Was there, Max? And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm asking the question, like, between what we saw at Ipswich and what we saw yesterday, what was the fundamental difference? Is it that there wasn't the fluidity that there was in Ipswich? It was literally that
they weren't swapping really, and it was just like, you know how
there was no space for them either, right? Because Ipswich came to play, whereas Sheffield Wednesday came to spoil.
And where you take Pirot's goal at Ipswich for an example, Rutter doesn't score that goal, I don't think, because he's not got that striker's instinct. If they were playing the other way around and Rutter was the striker and Pirot was the number 10, Pirot probably was sitting on the edge of the box and Rutter would have been in the box to try and score that, just for an example. Then that goal doesn't happen. And that's what happened yesterday. They were playing the other way around and Rutter is just never in the right place at the right time. But Pirot would have been if they'd have just said, okay, this is a crossing opportunity. Rutter should drift out wide, really, to link up, play with Nonto or Somerville on either side. He should be the one going out there because he's good at that little link up play. And we've seen that Pirot isn't good at those little interchanges of passes, those little short, sharp passes, tiki-taka football in the corners. But Rutter can do that and can link up well with Somerville and Nonto on those sides. So you want them drifting out wide, helping them out if the ball's out there. So then you've got Shackleton overlapping, you've got Nonto on the ball, and then you've got Rutter is also an option, and it creates a headache for the defense to deal with. Pirot's
why didn't Farke do that for you then, Max? Why?
I just don't know. I really don't understand the logic. It doesn't happen, does it? But I'd love for him to explain why he did that, because he might have had a reason behind it. He might have said, oh, well, they've got 3 at the back, so I wanted to occupy them with Rutter so that Pirot could make runs through them. But we didn't see that happen or anything. But I can't see a reason why.
Do you not think, though? Well, I'll come to you then, because Max made a great point about him being able to play them tiki-taka passes, and sometimes when we are trying to break down a low block, it gets fired into Rutter and he'll pop it off to Somerville or whoever's on running to try and get them through. But it was that congested, we couldn't do that. But do you think that's why he's playing the 9 and not Pirot? Or what was it down to?
The thing with me with this was we don't have a creative number 10. So put both of them in there and let's see if we can get some goals from 2 players that should be goal scorers. Georgina Rutter, for me, I keep saying this. He may end up proving me wrong, and great if he does. He's not a number 9, because when he plays in number 9, he's always offside. Always. I'm sick of watching him run through past
8 offsides this season.
He's a headless chicken in the last third when he's the last striker. When he's in a 10 or wide, he's very good.
Yeah,
he can get the ball,
he runs at them.
That's the thing. So when he's the last man, he's chasing things rather than being able to run at people. Whereas Pirot, when you look at the goals that he scored with Swansea, is at his best when the ball's gone in front of him when he's chasing after it. That's when he's at his best. And I think Farke has looked at it and gone, well, I can make, he needs to. And I said this, and I got a bit of stick last week because I said Pirot didn't suit the system the way we're playing at the moment, with teams playing low block, because there's no space in behind for him to get in there. And someone then, when he scored last week, someone else on the chat here came in and said, oh, well, here we go. Jerry's going to tell us that Pirot doesn't suit the system because he scored a tap. But again,
a lot of people said that, Jer, though. A lot of people have said it.
I think Farke has tried to make him fit that by bringing him deeper so he can make those runs. But there's no space to run into. So it still ends up hitting a brick wall and there's no end product from it. And
ironically, though,
I think if you look at Rutter when he runs through on that ball, he has so many options there. I mean, if you watch that clip back from all the angles that are doing the rounds, not only should he lob the goalkeeper, which he absolutely should have done, but he could actually have taken it. His first touch was so good. He could have rolled it around the goalkeeper very easily. He had so many. And instead, I'm convinced he thinks he's offside. He just taps the ball to not get a yellow card.
Yeah, but
and then
still,
you see his reaction to it. He looks at the line, does that, and then falls on the ground. You're like, you messed up. But Joel Pirot, I agree with Max. If Joel Perot's in those positions, I think he scores.
Yeah,
I think if you give him 3 or 4 chances, he definitely scores one of them. But for me, the issue here, and Farke is saying he's a wide forward, and I go, let's not do this again. Let's not go back to old times where we were buying wide players who could also play as a striker. You've gone and bought the best striker in division. Play him as the best striker, because if you're, I do understand the reason for playing him as the 10 because he's a talented footballer and he might still get a shot from distance. And he scored the most goals outside of the box in the division, so he's got that in his locker. I get all that stuff, and I can see the logic behind it. But he's also a goal scorer, and when you're not scoring goals in this kind of game, you need to have him in his position and then hope something finds its way through. Because Nanto's putting balls in, Somerville are putting balls in, and they were going into the box. There's no one in there because Rutter doesn't naturally make that run. You saw against Salford, Rutter naturally doesn't hang around the middle of the penalty area. He doesn't stay between the centre backs. You look at what Alan Shearer said to a striker on Sky Sports. He was talking about a striker's career, and he said, if you spend your time between the lines of the 18-yard line, you will score lots of goals. But Rutter doesn't. He's outside the box, or he's
gets
in the
up
corner
towards
of
the ball.
Line. It's not effective for me in those positions. So for me, it's you play your best players in their best positions, and you hope that it works, because playing them in different positions to then also hope that, well, there's more bodies in there that can score goals that we'll get. We need to get to. We get what we got on Saturday. Absolutely toothless in the final third of the pitch.
Yeah.
The thing is, you said about Venger, ironically, there was space in behind in this game, and they had three at the back, and multiple times it was knocked over the top, and we actually had runners going in, and there was one in the first half where Somerville got knocked over the top, and he was too scared to take it on his left foot and then cut back and got tackled. He cut inside and got tackled rather than taking the outside and shooting with his left. There was multiple occasions where, I mean, there was one from Ayling where I was right behind it in the cheese wedge. I could see him, and he just clipped it like a nice deft flick over the top, a chip, and it was right into the striker's path, or it would have been a striker if it was Pirot, but it was Rutter, and he couldn't. But there was actually times where we were able to get the ball over the top, and somebody like Pirot, that is, like you say, where he scored a lot of his goals for Swansea, and it just seems madness not to put him there.
Yeah. Do you know what as well then? So there's an argument that the subs were left too late as well.
Oh yeah.
I don't think he trusts the bench.
Well, this is what. So
outside the new players, I think the rest of them are trust.
The new players obviously I sort of accept because they've just come in, they've hardly had a pre-season, then use the bench. Then there's a bigger question that if he doesn't trust those that are on the bench, then we didn't do enough business. But surely just putting someone in there. I'm basically trying to get round to the idea, is Daniel Farke at fault for yesterday's result?
Tactically, I don't think he was at fault, because tactics-wise, I think we did a lot of the right things. I think the build of play was better, although it's still too slow, but I expect that to get faster over time.
Yeah, very, very slow. Why?
And the issue with that is, well, I think they're learning, and that's why it's slow. You get used to.
They were positioned quite well defensively as well. They were hard to break down. You could see.
There is a reason for that, though. There is a really easy. If you look at how slow we came out with the ball, that allows teams to drop in and get a low block. If you come out rapidly and fast and break quickly, then a team can't set as a low block. A low block is something like if you're coming out of your box, then you're transitioning from defense to attack, which means the opposition are transitioning from attack to defense. If you transition quicker than they do, you score. But the problem with Leeds is it's typical. And Somerville had a very good second half for me, but there were times in the first half where he drove me nuts. He takes way too many touches of the ball. He slows the game down. His passing isn't hit hard enough. He leaves a little bit too little on the pass, and it drops a little bit short from people every time. Second half, he was better. But if you look at the first half, the amount of ball that went into Somerville, and he takes it, and he stops, and he turns, and you go, that's the attack on now. It's broken down. It's broken down now because you've been too slow to move that ball. When Somerville got the ball in the first half, there was two chances, one for Rutter and one for Pirot, where he took too long on the ball, and by the time he passed it, the space was gone, or he didn't hit it hard enough, and the move broke down. So you've got to, and if you look at Bielsa's system, and not to say anything about, I'm not getting back into the Bielsa stuff, but just as an example in this division, the transitions from defense to attack were rapid. They went to the fullback, and we tore up the park straight away. Then it went inside, outside, inside, goal. If you look at it now, it's into the 6, out to the wide, back into the 6, back out to the wide, back into the 6, back out to the wide. Now that the opposition's defense is now set. You have 8 players on the 18-yard line to try and break down with no creative number 10. You're dead. You're not getting in behind unless someone makes a gaping mistake.
Ampadu has a very good range of passing, and what we utilised in that system was Calvin Phillips' ability to pass the ball. We'd either go to the fullback straight there and have them run down the wing, or you'd pass it to Calvin, and Calvin would spray lovely balls over the top, right and left into the channels, like you say, where it would get cut back into the box and we'd have a shot. Ampadu's capable of that range of passing. So if we can get the ball into him quick enough, and like I said before, he can just turn like that on a sixpence and have gone from his the person who's marking him. And we've got runners. You've got Ayling and Nonto on the right-hand side, or Jed Spence and Nonto on the right, which is frightening. If he can get the ball into that channel, one of them goes for it, the other one occupies a defender, and we create chaos in their backline. But it's about snappiness, it's about pace, isn't it? And getting that done as early as possible.
And that's why I'm positive. Funnily enough, because it's the reasons we didn't score yesterday. But ironically enough, I'm actually quite positive about that, because I know when you go into a new team, if you're trying to put a style of football into a team, you start off with the basic stuff, and you start off with ball retention and just keep it moving. You don't go into speed. You don't go into panicking people. It's about getting to know the patterns of play, memorizing the patterns of play. And then the further that goes along and the more confident you get, the faster they become. And then you start to move the pitch quicker, and it takes a little bit of time. Farke always said it takes his teams about 10 games before that snappiness is there and before that trust is there. If you go back again, look at Bielsa's time, the trust was always there. The amount of times players passed the ball into empty space because they knew somebody would be there when they went in there. They didn't even look. The problem with the Leeds team right now
is it takes a long time to develop that, yeah, doesn't it?
It does.
And then it wouldn't have done if Farke had come in straight after Bielsa, because they would have had that snappiness already. But we've had our players trained not to be able to pass the ball for that amount of time, that when you get somebody in, it's like somebody's got to hit the reset button.
But you've also got a lot of players that have left and a lot of players that have come in. And we're still coming in drip feeds over the course of the summer window. So if Farke has to go back and re-educate all of those players and get them, I mean, he said it in his press conference, Jed Spence and Kamara might not be up to speed in terms of patterns of play and transitions and all that kind of stuff, but they should have enough in it to go in for the last 10 minutes and run around and kick people. And that's pretty much what he asked them to do, and they did it quite well. But over time that'll get better.
I think Spence should be starting now anyway, just because of when he sprinted back and made that tackle where it sort of just got caught in his heels, but he was able to get back. That is exactly what Ayling can't do anymore. That's
the recovery speed's phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, because Ayling stands about halfway inside his own half with his hands.
If that's Ayling, Max, I think they score there, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I do, honestly. I said that.
He doesn't make those recovery runs anymore. There was so many times last season. I can't remember. I think it was the Bournemouth game and other games where people were saying, "Look at him. He's." There was one where he wasn't even on the screen, wasn't there? Where he just didn't get anywhere near.
That wasn't his fault, though. That was he was blamed for that, and that was Willie Nonto's man that made the run. He was marking the players first.
Cardiff won it, no doubt.
Yeah. But the thing about that as well, if you look at the attack as well from the 10 position, we have players I think that could do a reasonably good job in 10. I don't think it's Chris Somerville. I don't think Chris Somerville's a 10. He might wear the number, but I don't think he's a number 10. I think he's a very good winger. I would rather him on the wing and Willie Nonto on the 10, or Rutter in the 10. And for me, it's a case of Rutter of you play him in the 10.
We should have just bought a bloody fecking 10.
I know.
Maybe we will. But for me, with Rutter, it's a case of he plays in the 10, or he plays wide, or he doesn't play.
I think Rutter, he showed me in that Ipswich game. We talked about it. The weight of pass that he had into Pirot from some of his things, where where he's like one of those ones that curls round the defender and just sits up nicely for the player to take it in their stride. He did that multiple times. He took the ball, he turned a man, he ran at defenders, he got Pirot thinking, I can get in here, and making runs off him. He did that. He can be a very good number 10 in this system. So why did he play him there yesterday?
I don't want to just pay £10 million for the best striker in the championship and then watch him in the number 10 for the next 9-10 months.
No.
I
think people would lose their minds after the amount of times I already in the wrong positions.
You watch when Bamford's back, right? Bamford's leading the line with Pirot in the 10.
Ironically, Bamford would probably be better in the 10.
Yeah. Mad. Watch for Kate then. Kate will have a meltdown.
No, I won't. If he's doing the job, absolutely great. If he's not,
he could do a job there in the number 10 as a second striker, Bamford, I think.
Yeah. Probably more comfortable for Bamford dropping deep and getting the ball. No, I'm not getting into this. No, I'm not doing it.
No, don't. Just leave it. Just move on. Let me just bring up this.
Again, we'll get to that. He's fit.
Yeah, Ice Bailey says, didn't he say that he wanted to use Ruter's pace up front by keeping Pirot back? I remember him saying, yeah, I think we touched on that a little bit earlier on, but there was no space for him to use his pace into anyway, so it was bloody pointless. There
was a move at one point in the first half. Max, you said you were in the cheese wedge, so you would have seen this full. There was a ball played over the top on the left-hand side for Rutter to run after the ball. And Rutter seemed to run out of pace. He seemed to all of a sudden just rapidly slow down. Like he was exhausted making the run, where he went really fast for 5 or 10 yards and then just started to crawl down and barely got to the ball in the end of it before the defender did. I don't know if he's as quick over long distances.
That's when they talk about acceleration versus sprint speed, isn't it? And some players are like that to set off and then aren't actually that quick in general over 100 meters, say. But then, I mean, in a game like that, Dan James, I think, probably scores because there's those chances where Rutte got in behind. I think.
Did you just say Dan James scores?
Yes, I think so.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
I think he gets that many chances in that game because he would have had probably 4 or 5 times been played in over the top throughout the course of that game where he is just so quick. He would have had to have finished one of them. I mean, I say that, but like, you know what I mean, though? It's an option, isn't it, to have in a game like that where you're thinking, we've had a few players nearly get in behind, but not quite have the pace to get there and finish it off without defenders catching them. If Dan James is fit and he's on the bench, you might think, okay, well, let's put Dan James on for the last 30 minutes and see what he can do because he is just so quick.
I genuinely think there's a case for him starting Gruev, Ampadu and Kamara in front to do the because when he spoke about Kamara in the presser, he said he's great at carrying the ball and he's great at playing that final pass. And I thought,
and he can finish.
Okay, and he can finish. So I think he's going to play in that 10, if you like, or box to box.
The thing is, if you speak to Rangers fans, they have said that he was tried in the number 10 a couple of times and he was really bad there. He's so much better as a box to box 8. And he said that his first touch, his ability to turn and find a pass is really, really good. But when he gets into the attacking third, he's not good enough to play as a he's not that he's not good enough, it's his skill set isn't suited apparently, but that obviously I haven't seen that much of him because there's not that much SPFL that you can get your hands on really, but from their fans' point of view, they've said that he's been tried in the 10 and he just doesn't work there.
We will have to,
but it'll get tested, won't it?
Yeah, no, I think it will. Right, we're coming up to an hour, and Johnny says, glad for the international break so players can settle and Farker can implement his style with this squad. Now the window is finally shut. And that's where I want to finish up on, because I do think there's been a massive overreaction. That's just my own opinion, by the way, folks. I do think there's been a massive overreaction to yesterday's result, coupled with the fact we've been really poor. I'm not trying to dress that up. We were poor, especially in the final third yesterday. We were poor in the final third against Salford. We created a lot. On another day, we scored 4 or 5, but ultimately we didn't find the back of the net, and that's what you judged on. The transfer window went down, then up, then back down again. It's such a shame it ended the way it did, because that didn't help with the mood after yesterday's result either. Had it been the other way around, I think we'd have been okay with it, but ultimately, as Daniel Farker said, it will be a rocky start. We've now got through 5 games. There's 41 left to go. And as much as, in a couple of days' time, we'll be bemoaning the international break, I think it's come at the perfect time for this side. The absolute perfect time for this side. I think when we come back, we'll be looking at Jed Spence.
So we know content to make.
I think when we come back, there'll be Jed Spence at right back. I think Gruev might be in the side. I think Gray might be given a rest, and that's fine. You might be looking at Pirro up top, because they'll have had time to work on patterns and that, as Joe said earlier. So I genuinely think there's a realistic chance that Leeds United go on a bit of a run when we do come back and start to really climb up the table. So, Kate, I'll come to you. Do you feel the same? Are you excited for? I mean, it'd be brutal if we come back and we get beat by Millwall. It'd be like, oh no, sack him. But no, are you excited?
Do you know what I am? And as much as I've sort of given it some tonight, I actually, in my heart of hearts, think that to get this far, 5 games in with 1 loss. Considering everything we've had to go through, the takeover, the late coming to the market, all the outgoings, all the shit that the club's been through, emotionally, physically, in every sort of way. I think to come out of it, yesterday was poor. For me personally, I kind of think, God, was it just like, everyone's just had it up to here. We just need a break to regroup and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's got a bit to do with it. There's so many things in the equation, and I think that we'll have a break. They'll regroup. Daniel Farke can go and chill for a bit, hopefully, because I think he must be sort of at his wit's end with it all.
Yeah,
I think he's done a magnificent job steering the ship so far. And when all said and done, we have made a lot of astute signings and done some good business in very, very, very difficult circumstances. So I am, believe it or not, I am actually positive for coming back against Millwall in 2 weeks' time. And
Millwall?
I have confidence in Millwall, not QPR.
Yeah. Millwall.
I keep saying QPR as
Yeah,
well. Yeah, I keep saying QPR. That's what I'm saying.
But I am. So yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you, Kate. Do you know what else we're going to see as well? And I'm starting to get on board with it, Joe. I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see Firpo and Spence, and I think going forward, it's gonna be all right. I think it's going to be all right. We're going to create chances at will, and we're going to put a lot of teams to the sword.
I think if you play Firpo and Spence, you've got to play Gruev and Ampadu to cover them.
I think that's what he'll do, though. I think that's what he'll do.
Yeah.
Go on, Joe. Thoughts?
I agree.
Positive.
I think I'd have rather another left back than Firpo, if I'm being honest. I would have. However, we have what we have, and I think, given how Farke's system plays with the fullbacks bombing on and underlapping and all that, I think it appeals to the best parts of Firpo's game, which are him going forward. He's not bad going forward. He's just a very bad defender. But in this system, he probably won't have to defend. I know you mentioned Jed Spence's tackle, and the Ailing probably wouldn't have made that. I don't think many fullbacks in the league make that effort to get back and then the tackle he made, time it as well as he did. There will be a lot more cover needed on Firpo's side because he will get caught in behind. And we've got to accept that under Farke's system, the fullbacks are going to get caught in behind. It's up to Gruev, Kamara, Ampadu, Gray, whoever's in there to make sure that they're cut out. And I think Farke will get that over the next couple of games. I don't know if Gruev has gone out on international duty or not yet, but if these guys aren't going out on international duty, great. He's got 2 weeks to work with them on this, and I think they'll have it nailed down when he comes back. So yeah, I've no issue. Firpo's fine. He's fine. Going forward, I can see the merits of it. I think Sam Byram, when he's fit, will play ahead of him, but you've got a good option there to have a backup when needed. But yeah, I think left back and 10 we still left ourselves short there. But as Max said, if we get to the January transfer window and only need a left back and a 10, then we're okay.
Yeah. And you're positive about the return against Millwall?
Yeah, I am positive this break because Friday was the worst day supporting Leeds United that I've had in a very, very long time. I hated it. I hated every second of it. Outside the transfer window, just the reaction on Friday was the most negative I've seen Leeds, any version of Leeds fans in a very, very long time. And I thought it was a massive overreaction on Friday as well. Myself and Kate talked about it at length on the stream on Friday about actually when you stand back and look at the entirety of the window, it's been a pretty strong window. The players we brought in have all been very, very good signings. This team is a better squad, better team, maybe not squad, but better team than it was last season. So I think if you put all that together, you give Farke more time to work with them. There's no more distractions now with people trying to get out with legal contracts and all that crap. That's all gone. I think Farke can knuckle down and go, this is the bunch of players that I have now for the remainder, at least until January. They know they're here at least until January. We all knuckle down and get stuck into the work now and we start to do the right things. So I think the distractions are gone. Crack on with the work. And I am positive. I do think we'll come back from the international break and be a better team. But I still wouldn't be reacting negatively if we're mid-table, top 10 to Christmas. Because if we're there, I still think we've got a chance of going on a big run. I think if we're anywhere near being competitive towards the January window, I think you'll see a big transfer window in January to go for it in the last part of it.
100%.
But I'm positive.
And like Unbelievable Hard says here, Luton went up 17 draws. It's under control. It is.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Max, I'm going to end it. We've still got the best team in the league. We're still going up, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. I think before this weekend, everybody was a bit like, oh, Leicester and Southampton, they're going to run away. Southampton just got smashed 5-0.
Awful, wasn't it?
That's
awful,
a little bit of a humbling for them, I think. And it shows that nobody is going to completely walk away with the championship. It doesn't happen very often. It's still a tough league. It's still a battle. Like Joe says, it's almost the opposite to the Premier League. When you get to January, you kind of want to be, unless you're like in the top 2, you kind of want to be between 10th and 6th, because they're usually the teams that go on a run and overtake all the people that are in the playoffs at that time. So as long as we're in the top 10, maybe the top 8, hopefully, but at Christmas, there's certainly every chance that we go on and get automatic promotion.
100%.
Just real quick, just to say on that, I know we won the league by 10 points in the end.
10 points,
last time. But that wasn't always the case for most of that season. It was really tight
for
it was only the last couple of games that we got results and pulled away from teams, but like it was very close at that point.
Definitely. And honestly, I'm genuinely shocked at people just writing off Leeds United's automatic promotion hopes 5 games into a season.
We should have had a penalty as well, by the way.
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
We didn't even talk about the ref. In general, the refereeing, I think, has been very, very poor.
We need VAR in the championship.
We do. We need it everywhere.
Although I'm glad that we didn't, because I'm pretty sure Pirro handballed it in our own box.
He did, yeah.
I was sat in, I've said it a million times, where I was sat, I could see perfectly the ball dropped over his head and he has his hands like this, like that, and it just went bonk off the top of his hands and he's backwards to the referee, so he didn't see it. And I just went to the guy next to me. I'm so glad there's no VAR, because
so he's got
definitely just handballed that. Yeah.
Definitely. Listen, it's been a bit of a grind tonight, and I didn't think it would, but listen, I get we're all down in the dumps, and hopefully after the international break we'll all be revitalized and ready to go, because it didn't.
It's a therapy session, isn't it?
It didn't end the best, did it? The window, and then yesterday's result and that. So hopefully the international break works wonders for Leeds, and we come back and we beat a bit of an old foe in Millwall, because they'll be right up for that one. So hopefully we can get 3 points against them. Please do subscribe to the channel. And no, as always, yes, sometimes I do bite, but it is all love, and I'm really, really appreciative of all the support you give the channel, whether you like me or not. Please make sure you check Kate out at Leeds Bird Rants, Max at Leeds Lately, and of course Jer at Leeds United The View. We'll all be struggling around for some content over the next 10 days or so. So watch this space.
Around. Oh no, there's nothing to
do. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I wish it was transfer deadline day every day, but then at the same time, I was just wanted to sleep by the end. Like, it was when they said deal sheets got in, I went, oh, for fuck's sake, just let me go to bed. But yeah, listen, thanks as always. Have a great evening, folks. Check out these content creators, and we'll see you all soon. Bye now.